All right, let's talk about one of my favorite stretches of all time, the seated piriformis stretch. That's mainly because you can do it from pretty much anywhere without much equipment, and you always feel much better after you do it. At least I do. So you'll notice that I'm sitting on a yoga mat. That's mainly because some floors that you're on can be a little bit hard, and it can press into your ankle bone and cause a pretty decent amount of discomfort. And you're not gonna get the best stretch if you feel that discomfort. And then if you need to, if the position is uncomfortable, like you can't sit in this position that we're going to be getting into, you can elevate your hips on something. So like you can have a stack of yoga blocks if you needed, a stack of weight plates or something, you can explore that. But what we're going to do is we're going to sit in this position where we're going to bend this foot like so, the bottom foot, then we're going to bring the other leg over. And so there's two variations. We're going to talk through each. So in the first variation, what we're gonna do is we're gonna let our foot lift up off of the floor as much as we need to get our hips, both of our sit bones to be flat on the ground. So we'll feel out the position. Once we're there, we're gonna hug our knee with our opposite arm. So I've got my right leg here up on top, my left arm is gonna come around and it's gonna hug that leg. So pretty much immediately I start feeling a stretch sensation here on the back side of the hip, backside, like almost like near your glute area. So what we can do from here is just start to feel it out. You'll notice when you round your back, the stretch sensation kind of goes away, or it goes down, it drops down drastically. And as you straighten your spine and you come into an anterior pelvic tilt, then you notice there's a huge increase in the stretch in that backside of the hip. That's what we're looking for. So you can go ahead and explore that, the first time that you're doing this stretch, so that you can really feel it out and understand how do you maximize the stretch on that area. So once you understand that, there's a few things that we can do. We can just hold the position for time where we try to lift the chest up, straighten the spine, and squeeze the leg towards us even harder. That increases the stretch, and you can hold that for time. You can also bring your hip lower down towards the ground, make more contact with the floor, smash it against the floor essentially. That'll increase the stretch as well. So you can spend 60, 90, up to 2 minutes really, or even longer than that, feeling that stretch. Or you can perform contractions as well, where what we're gonna do is there's two. The first one would be pushing our knee into our hand. So I'm driving my knee away from my chest into my arms. Let's say we do that for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Take a deep breath in. And then find a deeper stretch by bringing the knee closer to our body, lifting the chest and holding there for a brief amount of time, and then repeating. The second contraction would be driving the foot into the bottom leg. So from there, I'm pressing the outside of my foot into my knee here. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Release it, take a deep breath in. And on the exhale, try to find a deeper stretch. You can even begin to lean forward. That creates another intensity on that backside of the hip. So that's the first variation. Feel free to experiment with both variations that I'm going to show here and train the one that's giving you the most sensation on the backside of the hip on that day. It does vary. I find that one day I can do one and I feel quite a lot, and the very next day I do the other one and that one provides more of a stretch. So I'll switch knees just to demonstrate. So now in this second variation, we'll set up the same, except now we're gonna keep the foot on the floor and we're gonna let the hip hike up. So now from here, again, my left leg is the one that's going to be getting to stretch the left hip. So I take my right arm, wrap it around that leg. And now here I'm actually trying to coil myself up, create this wrapping effect of my body, letting the hip hike up as much as it needs to. So that hits the hip in a different area entirely. So from there, again, the same cues apply to increase the stretch. If you round, you feel less stretch. If you lift the chest up and you come into more of an anterior position of the hip, this more twerk-like position, greatly increases that stretch. So now from here, what we're looking for is to keep coiling and keep bringing the shoulder down closer towards the ground. Shoulder closer to the ground. I can even get this foot pretty flat, and that creates a huge difference in the back side of the hip. So you can also do contractions in this position. They'll be the same two contractions that I showed you in the previous variation. There's one thing that I forgot to mention in the previous variation, so I'm gonna go right back to it just to show you. So I mentioned we wanna keep both hips flat on the ground and let this foot come off of the floor on the side of the hip that's being stretched. But over time, what you'll find is that you can keep both of your sit bones flat on the ground and you can bring your foot towards the ground. So now we have contact between both sit bones and contact between this foot. And that's what we're working towards over time. So yeah, those are the two variations of one of my favorite stretches, the seated piriformis. And yeah, I hope you find this one valuable.